Everybody good? Everybody awake? I know it's getting ready to be a long day. We're almost done. On to the good part, though. We're going to start actually drinking. So, a couple things that Eric, I know, will touch on. Anytime we take tequila, whether it be one of his brand, Pasode, Jose Cuervo, Herradura, anything, there's three major categories. You have your silver, blanco, or plata. It's all the same thing. It just means unaged, which actually can be aged up to 2 months. Then you have your reposado. Reposado actually means rested, so it means rested in a barrel up to a year by law. And then you have your añejo, which is the darker, this right here. It's from 1 year to 3 years. And then you actually have one more category past that, which is extra añejo, which gets into your $150, $200 bottles. It's almost like a fine scotch, so to speak, and that's 3 years and past that. So he'll kind of go through what the barrel does to it. You were just asking all those questions that I think are really good, because the barrel plays a lot on the spirit. I mean, bourbon and rye, you kind of touched on whiskey earlier, it's booming now, and the barrel plays a huge role into that. So let's make sure we give him our attention. We're going to taste what we have in front of us. I would always recommend starting with the silver. We'll start with the silver first, then go to reposado. When we're done with that, I'm going to come around with the Pasode. We're going to taste the silver and the reposado there, so we can kind of compare and contrast. And then we'll taste the añejo. That way you guys get the whole full spectrum of silver to reposado to añejo. Then we'll skip to our mezcals, and we'll taste a couple through those, so you guys can really tell the differences in the different species of agaves, the different flavor profiles compared to the tequila. And you guys are really, we were talking about smoke earlier, you guys are really going to be able to catch on to that smoke and the different attributes it has. All yours. Yeah.
So I'll tell you guys a little trick about tasting spirits that when I learned it, I was like, oh, I'm glad somebody finally told me this. When you taste wine, you know, people will swirl it, they put their nose really down in there, they sniff, then they taste. Well, spirits, obviously, a lot higher in alcohol volume. So if you have to taste, and I'm sure with your trainings, you're going to be tasting a lot of spirits back to back. And the easiest way to get fatigue on your palate and your nose is really, you know, putting your nose all the way down there, sniffing, swirling. Because when you swirl it, it releases all those alcohols. So what I like to do when I taste spirits is, so I'll hold it about 3-4 inches, and I'll smell. I'll start smelling from there. And if you can tell, when you start analyzing spirits, you're like, all right, is it a strong flavor? Is it light? Is it, you know, the closer you get it to your nose, when you start smelling it, you're like, okay, if it's right here, then you're like, all right, that's a balanced flavor. It's not overpowering. If you can smell it from here, you're like, all right, that's probably Everclear or something I probably shouldn't drink. So, you know, just kind of gradually bring it up to your nose. I don't swirl it at first. I leave it just in the glass like that. And also when I breathe in, I open my mouth a little bit. All that's going to kind of go through your mouth with spirits, and that's where you're really going to start tasting things at. So you'll be able to taste a lot more spirits a little bit more accurately, because if you start swirling around, putting your nose in there, taking big sips, then you're like, all right, cool, after about 3 tastes, you're done for the day. You can't taste anything. Also, if you got spit buckets, depending on, I always take a little sip first and then spit it out. And then my second sip is really when I let it, you know, kind of swish around in my mouth. I open my mouth a little bit still, and I breathe out.
Guys, listen up. Give them your respect.
But that's always benefited me when I taste spirits, because honestly, it's high alcohol. So, yeah, there you go.
I've learned actually too myself that with silvers or platinum, you tend to smell more of the alcohol and that style of tequila just because it's not aged in a barrel. The barrel, I like to think of it as almost like a piece of sandpaper. Think of the barrel as a piece of sandpaper. You know, you start with a rough course or a fine course, sand it down a little bit, and then you have a finer course where you kind of smooth it out, right? So that's essentially what the barrel is doing to the liquor when it's inside of it. It's smoothing it out, it's rounding out the edges. It's becoming a more elegant spirit, so to speak. So your silvers are typically, you'll get more agave, I feel, on the nose and the aroma than you would an añejo, so to speak, because in an añejo and a reposado, you're going to get more, use like baking spices, as Eric would say, baking spices, anything that you can associate with oak, vanilla. American oak compared to French oak actually has very distinct Sorry, specific characteristics. American oak, yeah, American oak is coconut and dill, and the grain is a lot coarse, whereas French oak, it's vanilla and baking spices. So like when people smell wine, if you get a coconut, it's usually been aged in American oak. So all of those small little factors really play into what you're tasting. So what do you guys think of? Did you guys everybody taste it? The silver?
Good.
Not bad, right?
Yeah.
Pretty good. And so that is our well. That's our Jose Cuervo Tradicional 100% agave. As we kind of mentioned earlier, the mixto category, it's made with 51%. I think it has to be made 51% agave, which again we always try and stay away from that. So it's not quality. We're not going to carry anything close to a mixto, so we don't have to worry about that. We want to move on to Reposado now. Give that a taste. Try and pick, yes. Yes, sir. So this is going to be what we pour in our well. It's going to go into a couple of our cocktails, but we're going to have a lot more brands. I want to be able to showcase why tequila and agave. I can't answer that honestly off the top of my head. I think when it comes to mezcal, it's usually sustainable as it is. I'm sorry? Exactly. Yeah. And especially when it comes to mezcal. Yep. And like he kind of mentioned earlier with agave plants, it's a lot like wine in the sense of where it's grown. You know, if it's in the valley or if it's in the highlands, the climate it gets, the precipitation it gets, how old the agave plant is. I know. I think I did a tasting with him, and I forgot your partner's name.
Lauren.
Lauren. Yes. We did the El Gordio line, and I think it was Fabala, the smaller plant.
Yeah.
It takes 25 to 35 years for this plant to mature before they can even make mezcal out of it. So yeah, it's a very, very special. That's why they keep a tradition. It's very spiritual. It's very religious, and that's why they take it so seriously. Why it's such a great spirit still to this day. Nobody can really butcher it.
So yeah, in 2014 at the Tobaziche, they made 460 bottles of this. That's not 460 bottles for Orlando or 460 bottles for Florida. That's 460 bottles they put out in 2014. So you think about the level of small batch. That's about as small batch as you get.
Yeah, I feel truly blessed to have that. I mean, 460 bottles of the entire world. I mean, we have them, so it's pretty cool. That's about 100 to 115 for each one of those.
Yeah, that's what we sell it for, or that's what a restaurant or bar will buy it for. So obviously, by the time it gets to the glass, it's. And I don't know if you're going to offer like how many ounce pours, but if you have the opportunity to offer mezcals in smaller pours, because right now we're in the time period where everybody wants to try it and they're excited about it. But I know I don't want to just say, oh, I've never tried mezcal. Here's $50 for 3 ounces. What if you don't like, the first ounce? So if you can do smaller ounce pours or flights or any kind of programs like that, I think that's always a good way to introduce.
Yeah, and I mean, nail on the head. We're definitely gonna do that. The graduated pours, I definitely think are the way to go with stuff like that. When you're definitely, yeah, absolutely. So.